I've got both of you in here. That's fun. Well, let's see how we get this started. Evening, my lovelies. Not sure what you're doing up this late. You should probably be in bed. But since you're not, we're going to learn a new fun hobby. Do you like stabbing things multiple times without it screaming? Then this might be the hobby for you. Cross-stitching is, to put it simply, it's a grid. Lots and lots of grids. Lots of itty-bitty X's to make little itty-bitty images. It usually is helpful if you have a sketch already set up. So this is actually what we're going to be making this evening, is just regular old Mario mushrooms. You see these helpful little things in pretty much every type of Mario game you can play. They come in various colors, reds, greens, purples. You want to make sure you know your shrooms before you start using them, because you're never 100% sure what they're going to do, especially in the newer games. So you're going to need a pattern, or you can just wing it if that's something you really want to do. Go for it. Have fun with that. We're also going to need our own hoop. I am a fan of the spring type because it has a better tension, but there are various types. There are ones that screw tighter, there are ones that just pop into place. To each their own. I honestly suggest you try a few out, figure out what works for you. They also come in various sizes, various shapes. There's ovals. There's actually some that are the size of a desk, in case you wanted to do a giant thing for like a quilt. But we're not going to go that big tonight. We're going to stick to small stuff. You're also going to need a piece of Aida cloth. The one we're going to be using today is 14 count. And what you can't really see, because my camera doesn't like to focus on things, is this is all a stiffened white fabric-y material that has itty-bitty holes checkered across the entire thing. So we're going to use that. We're also going to need a needle that is a bit dull. Because trust me, you don't want to have a sharp needle doing this, because if you stab yourself, and if you don't stab yourself and bleed on something, that's not actual crafting in my opinion. Dull is the way you want to go. That way you also don't accidentally put your needle through the wrong material spot and then mess up your entire project, because that is awful. You're also going to need floss. There are various types of this stuff. It all depends on what you want to use. But if you're like me, these big packs are easy to find. Walmart, Hobby Lobby, Joann's, Michael's. You might get lucky. Michael's is kind of taking away from their more handicrafty things. But we're going to use that floss. Let's see, anything else that we're going to need today? Scissors are going to be your friend, unless you want to chew on it like a rabid squirrel. To each their own. You do you. I'm not one to judge. So what we're going to want to do first is we're going to want to put our Aida cloth into our hoop. And it all depends on what you want to do. I personally like to put it face down just so that everything is flat. So that when I turn it over, bam! Nice taut surface to work with. I keep this up here because that way you have less chance of snagging this guy in it. Because that's going to happen. Don't panic. It's going to happen. It's going to be annoying, but it's going to happen. So, you're probably looking at this, especially if you're a first timer, going, how the blazes is this thick cord going to make anything worthwhile? There's not enough. It's too thick, yada yada yada. Lots of worries, lots of panic mode. But let's not worry about that, because we're going to make this smaller. Take a good chunk, get your extra out of your way. Now what you're going to do, if you just use your hands and you feather it out a little bit, there's actually 6 strands of string or floss holding it all together. Now there are 2 ways, well, 2 ways that I know of, that you can thread your needle. And again, to each their own. I've done it both ways. It kind of depends on what works best for you and your project. If you're going to go with the 2-strand method, take your 2 strands and carefully, and be patient with it, because if you're not, it'll tangle like a crazy person, and pull out 2 strands separated from the 6. If you want to go with a thicker method, you would just take your floss, lick the tip, and you're going to go ahead and you're going to just thread your needle like you would any other craft, if it would let you. There we go. Leave yourself a good sized tail on the other side, and you're good to go. If you have a smaller project, and I know our mushroom is currently pretty small, so how much smaller are you planning on going? Again, you have no idea. You could be using your floss for one line, just a few squares. You never know. So in case that happens, 1 strand, fold that puppy in half. And this part, where you've folded it in half, we're going to take that and we're going to thread that through our needle. So we're going to pop that puppy in there, again, if it lets you. If you need to, feel free to use one of those threading tools. Again, I'm not going to judge. You craft, you. Then what we're going to do is we're going to take our needle and loop it through that looped end that you just put through. And now you have a double-stranded piece that's not going anywhere. Again, to each their own. You do what's more comfortable for you and your craft. So, the best way to start with any project is at the beginning. You can start at the top, you can start at the bottom. I prefer to start at the bottom. Pick your poison. The bottom of our pattern here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 going across the bottom. We're having 10 stitches going across the bottom of ours. So, and again, unfortunately you can't see the best because my camera won't zoom, but take that dull needle of yours in the bottom right hand corner and let's get this party started. Pull through, leave a tail on the back. I want to put your finger there to keep pressure down. And since we're in the bottom left hand corner of that one little box, we're going to put our needle in the top right hand corner of that little box. So now we have one little hash mark. Spiffy. So, remember our tail in the back? That little guy's going to come into play soon. So you're going to take your needle, go to the next little dot next to your hash mark. I'm going to flip this guy over. See our tail? That little guy right there? We're going to make sure he goes through our loop here. And again, sometimes your tail wants to be a pain. Sometimes it's too long. Sometimes it's too short. But hey, nobody's going to know about your tail except for you. So if you like a long tail, go for it. Keep in mind though, if it's too long, you might end up pulling your tail through to the front of your work at some point. And if you do, that's okay. Pull it back to the back of your work. or you can snip it off, your call. So what we're going to do, go back to that top right hand corner, pull through. And we're going to go across the same way we started. From the bottom left hand corner to the top right hand corner of that little box. And we're going to go across 10 times. Good night, Kai. Sleep well. Go across, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If at any point you are not 100% sure how many of these things you've made, we get to go back to kindergarten. We get to count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It doesn't matter if this is your first project or your 50th project. You're going to want to count because you always want to double check that you're not going to go too far over, not far enough, because trust me when I say this, one stitch out of place can make the entire project go full on cattywampus. So if you flip her over, if you're curious, we have perfect little straight lines in the back. And our tail isn't going anywhere because it's already been wrapped up with the stitches we've already made. How nifty is that? So you have your 10 little hash marks. What do we do with that? Well, that last little one that you made right here, that bottom right hand corner is where you're going to bring your needle back up. And now we're going to go from bottom right to top left, all the way back across. So 1, yep, or do that and needle will fly everywhere. Another plus about doing the looping your floss through your needle. Wow, words are hard. If you randomly decide to fling your needle out, it's not going to go anywhere because it's attached to your work until you cut it off. So again, bottom right hand corner to the upper left hand corner, all the way across. So you'll have a row of 10 itty bitty little X's. The fun X's, not the annoying ones that keep stalking your Facebook. And no worries. If you're the type that wants to see this kind of monotony fast forwarded, we will be uploading this to YouTube once we have tweaked our video, so no worries there. There will be a fast forward option in the future. But for now, you're stuck with me unless you change the channel, which you totally can. That's your choice. So, we have our full line of 10 little black X's, which unfortunately, like I said, you can't see very well because my camera does not like to zoom. So, we finished our entire bottom row. Go us! Our next bit is going to be these two spaces right here. So everybody has their own method. Like I said before, it's your craft, make it your own, do what you want to do. You can, some people will finish off and start a new line. I personally am of the belief that is a waste of floss, so we're not going to do that. We're actually going to take, because we're right here, if you look at our pattern, our next little X is going to be directly above that. So what we're going to do You'll also remember that our last time through our Aida cloth, we went down to the top left-hand corner. Now, if you remember the first few lines that we did, you come up out of the bottom left-hand corner. So if you do that currently, you're going to undo the stitch you just did. Womp womp. So instead, we're going to look at this little box above our stitch and go to the top right and go down to the bottom left. And then the next box, top right, bottom left. And we're just going to reverse the process and go top left, bottom right. There might be some people watching me do this panicking and pulling out their hair going, that is not how you cross stitch. But guess what? No one's going to know how you made this unless you tell them. If you don't have a problem with how you're doing your stitches, guess what? No one's going to know, because no one's going to watch you fret about it. So we have our second little batch. Then we have one going up. So again, we're going to come back over here, bottom left, top right, bottom right, top left. Then we have these two little puppies right here. So again, because we went down here, we can't go back up that way. You're going to undo your stitches. And then you'll be back at square one. So top right, bottom left, top right, bottom left, top left, bottom right, top left, bottom right. Also good to keep your stitches, you don't want to yank and keep them too tight because then you're going to warp your cloth. But your back is going to look neat, your front's going to look neat, but you also don't want your stitches to be too loose, because if they're too loose then your stitches aren't going to hold. And especially if you try and finish off a thread and your stitches aren't tight enough, they're going to let loose and you're going to lose everything you've just done, which is going to suck. So our next one is for a cross. So we're going to come up over here, bottom left, top right. We're just going to zoom across there, bottom left, top right. Bottom left, top right. And you can guess where we're going to go next, because we've got to make our little X's. So bottom right, top left. If you guys guessed that, then you are rocking. And then you have your 4. How nifty is that? So we have got all of this chunk so far. Now we need to go upsies. So not including this stitch, we have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 total, but you want to remember that you already have this one created. If you include this one and you would stitch 7 up, your entire pattern is going to be 1 stitch taller. And take it from me, because I did this earlier today, you will notice and it will bother you. So we need to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And again, if you're not sure, there's no harm in double checking your work. 1, 2, 3. My math teacher would be so happy to hear me say that, because I don't think I ever did that in class. Make our pretty little X's all the way down. We're going to cross our fingers that our floss makes it there with us, because we're getting a little short. But then we get to learn a whole new skill, how to finish off your floss. Because depending on what talents you already have in your arsenal, you have different methods in your head of finishing off threads or yarn, depending on what your craft is. For these guys, remember how we're making such pretty little lines in the back? When you want to finish off your floss, we're going to get to the back, find a nice little row that you've made all neat and tidy because we're awesome. Take your needle and you're going to feed it beneath those stitches. This is where having good stitches, good strong, not messing up your Aida cloth stitches come in handy. Because you just weave that puppy up there, snip off your extra. Check that out. You have finished off the first chunk of your first mushroom. Unfortunately, the only bad part about doing this single strand when it comes to your needle is getting that puppy off of your needle. So please be careful. Use scissors, again, or teeth if you want to be a rabid squirrel. No judgment. But the scissors are probably going to be your sharper option. And you may or may not cut yourself. Since I'm a firm believer of the craft is not official until you've bled on it somewhere, that could be totally fine. Just beware if you're cross-stitching some sort of pentagram or a summoning circle, because if you bleed on it, you might have a companion that you might not want, or you do want. Again, no judgment. So since we already did our one strand method, we're going to do that again to use up the other strand. So again, put that loop through your needle through the loop, and pull her down. That way, if you suddenly start sending things flying, your needle isn't going to go anywhere. So we have done our giant bit here. Now we're going to do this bit. Now, again, each person is different. You can do whatever you want to do with it. Me personally, I'm going to go all the way around here and then go all the way back. So it'll be a lot easier and the back will be a lot neater if you do it that way. So our next stitch is going to join up right there where we left off. You have two methods of starting up your new thread. You can either weave it in here like you did the first one, like you did finishing off the first strand, or do you remember how we started off our first strand and we had this little bit down here where you held it? Do either one, whatever makes you comfortable. You know why? Because it's your craft, and I'm not going to be there to yell at you for, quote, doing it wrong, because you're not doing it wrong. You can do whatever you want to do with it. Though I will suggest if you go either method holding your finger there until you get a few stitches in so the thread doesn't try and follow you. So, as we have been the entire time, bottom left, top right, and we're going to do 2 little hash marks. Bink, bink. Then we have 1 little guy, which unfortunately, since our last needle went through that, we're going to have to come out this one. So we're going to go top right, bottom left, really scare it, freak it out. Now we're going to go across 2. So 1 hash mark, 2 hash mark. Fabulous. So up top, we need to go across 2, 4, 6. And since our last hash mark went into the top right, we need to come in from the top right of the next one and work our way backwards a little bit. And that's okay. Because what do we always say? It's your craft. You can do it however you are comfortable. Because no one's going to know otherwise. Unless you tell them. And if you tell them, that is all you. So going across 6, so that's 3, 4, 5. The fun thing about cross stitch is it's, once you get into the hang of this, it is literally just a graph. Because if you look at what I have here, this is a bullet journal. You can probably see the itty bitty dots. So it makes it easy to do graphs. Or if you prefer graph paper, you can get books that have graph paper in it. I bought both of these puppies at Walmart. A few dollars a pop. That way all of your creations are in one spot. Good thick paper. It's fantastic. So we have done our 6. Now we're going to do these 2, that 1, and these 2. Now this is where things might get a little hinky because they're going to look a bit different going the other way. It sounds strange, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Especially if you're following along at home and doing this yourself. Which if you are, spiffy! Feel free to send me images of what you're working on, because guess what? We can all learn together. And there's nothing wrong with showing off your accomplishments. You should be proud of what you create. Go 2. And you kind of see about now what I mean with this side looks different from this side. Because remember, we're all going from the bottom left to the top right, or top right, bottom left, depending on your stitches. So you have hash mark, cross hatching going one direction so far. But this will all make more sense once we go back the other direction and make everything little X's. It just looks kind of funky now. So we've done these 2. Now we're going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to work our way all the way back around. With me so far? Awesome. Let's keep counting. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as you're doing this, you'll probably figure out that you'll see that your floss and your needle are starting to twist. If that happens, guess what? It's a thing that always happens. Just feel free to let it drop a little bit. Put your finger up to the top and just do a slow pull down, kind of like you're milking a very thin cow. That's an odd reference. But that will help your floss untwist and your needle will untwist with it. So we have all our little hash marks doing all the way around the shell, the top of our little mushroom. Now we're going to go back, over the folds. Make itty bitty little X's. So, most part, bottom right to top left. Depending on where you are going, you could do top left to bottom right. Whatever makes the craft more comfortable. Because again, what do we always say, my lovelies? No one's going to know unless you tell them. This means someone's always going to try and tell you that you're doing something the wrong way because it's not the way they were taught. Well, I was taught how to do multiple crafts in a certain way, and then I started to find other tutorials to teach me more, and they had different ways of doing things than the way I was taught. So I found what was comfortable for me, because it made everything so much easier. Because let's be real, if I'm doing this and you might think it's a cattywampus method, but my image comes across, is it the wrong way? Or is it just how I get it done? Just because it's not the same way that you do things does not mean it's wrong. But we will finish this project together with whatever methods make you comfortable. Now if you're doing this, once you get the hang of it and you're doing your own thing, I usually listen to podcasts, I listen to music, audiobooks. I usually have something going on in the background. I don't usually talk to myself while cross-stitching. Usually. Because let's be real. Every crafter's a little crazy. And there's nothing wrong with that. Alrighty, we've made it all the way back across. We got all of our little X's on the top of our mushroom. And we're not really have enough to keep going. So we're going to finish off by tucking this puppy under the back of our other stitches. And then we're going to cut it, and we're going to pull out some more floss, and we're going to finish this outline. And then when we come back again tomorrow, or the next time we decide to meet up on this stream channel, we will color this puppy in. Now remember, I said that these mushrooms come in various colors, green ones, red ones. What color do you think we should make? So you go ahead and you message me that, and you let me know what you think. And that will determine if we have a red cap or a green one. Now this time round, I'm going to do the other method and have 2 strands so that we can get the best of both worlds. And if you have extras, that is totally okay. I can guarantee you that black is a very popular color and you will be using it frequently. And at the end of this, I will show you one of the methods that I have to keep that coiled in such a way that it does not make an absolute mess and wherever you're keeping your crafting supplies. So, we've gone all the way across, whoosh. But now we need to go this way. We need to finish, we need to get this line, the eyes, and this last little bit right here. And then we will be done. So what we're going to do, we need to rejoin right there. And since we're going to go straight across, we're going to just hold the tail like we did at the very, very beginning, because that way we will pick it up as we go and tie it off again as we go. So, doing this one, you want to rejoin in that little square right here, right there. So, bottom left, make sure you hold your tail, because that thing will follow you like a bad shadow. And then we're going to do bottom left. And turn around. Try and make sure that our tail is in there. And if your tail is too long, you can always pull it a bit. And don't worry, my lovelies, I'll get better at making sure you can see what I'm doing fully. Again, we are all learning things tonight. You're learning how to cross stitch, hopefully, and I am learning how to film myself cross stitching. It's a different practice. I'm not used to that yet. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3 across. So 1, 2, 3. Probably wondering, why, Mama D, why are you stopping at 3? We have to keep going. You see the line. I see the line because my pattern is staying here so you can see it. But we also have these eye stalks. So we're going to do that 4th one that's above the eye stalk. And then we're going to work our way down. So we're going to go to the space beneath it with top right, bottom left, top right, bottom left. But how are we going to get back up? You just made hash marks. Now we've painted ourselves into a corner. Not true, my dears. Now we're going to do with bottom right, top left. We're going to cross stitch back up that little eyeball and go back to our original line. But we're not going to cross stitch back this way yet. We're going to keep going that way. So we've done this one. And we're going to go 1, 2 across again. So just keep on trucking, my dears. 1, 2. Now this can sometimes happen when you've got longer strands. And guess what? It happens to all of us. It is not because you are new. It happens to absolutely everybody. It happens practically every time I do this. So gently try and use your needle, your fingers, try and figure out how to make it unknot. Especially when because that's going to be a big chunk that I lose there. So we're going to try and hook one strand and see if that works. If it doesn't, we're going to hook the other strand and try to move that one. But again, if you can't unknot it, there's a few ways you can go about this. A, leave it alone, because depending on how you finish your project, no one's going to see the back. You can barbarian it and pull it through your Aida cloth in that tiny little hole, but you're also going to be carrying, that means you're going to be carrying this knot with you throughout the rest of your project and warping the holes in your Aida cloth. It's not bothering me too much, and I know that when I'm done with this, I'm going to be using it for something else. So the back is not going to be a problem for me on my end. So I'm just going to leave it. Because again, nobody's going to know unless I tell them. And I guess I've already told you guys, so you know. But that's okay. We're all learning stuff today. And trust me, that knot is going to be there, and they're going to happen more and more. Unless you keep your threads, your floss, very short. So we've come to the second eye. We're working our way down the same way we did the first time. And going to work our way back up the exact same way. Now, for any reason you have missed a stitch, you've gone too far down, too far over, whatever's happened, easy fix. Just go ahead and unthread your needle and use it to gently being the word of the day here, start picking through your stitches. See what I mean? There's another knot right there. But that one's going to be a pain in the neck, so we're going to pull that along with us. And it can figure out what it wants to do with its life. But right now, it's going to be part of a mushroom, whether it wants to or not. So, we're going to go across 1, 2, 3, and that'll finish that top line. One, two, three. Now the fun thing about our little mushrooms here whichever. It is a mirror image. So whatever's over here is going to be the same over here. See that we have two little spaces here? We're going to have two little spaces there. If you're never 100% sure, refer to your pattern and then try and mirror it up and see where you're looking. So the next line we're going to do is these four right here. Bottom left, top right, bottom left, top right, and just keep on going. Oh, the annoying the second knot we had just disappeared. I love when that happens. It's like we annoyed it to death and it went away. Okay, we have our 4. Now we're going to do these 2 little bits and these 2 pieces, and we'll have finished our cross stitch across from left to right, and then we can go back the way we came. Make everything complete and pretty, and you, my dears, will finish your first chunk of line work, which is the best part to get done first, depending on the project. Some projects don't really need outlines first, some projects do. It all depends on the pattern that you have, or the pattern you yourself have created. But as we get further along into this, if this is something that picks up and folks like you enjoy actually watching this and learning how to make nerdy stuff, feel free to give me your 2 cents on what you want to see made up next time. Because next time, well, at least next time we meet, we're going to be coloring in this puppy. Could be green, it could be red, we don't know. We'll figure it out when we get there together. But after this project's done, what do we do next? What's next on the docket for Critter Stitchin's streaming? Let me know what you think. We could do Pokemon sprites. We could do Legend of Zelda sprites. Sprites are a fantastic way to test your cross-stitching prowess. Why, you may ask? Because it's a grid. It's a graph. That's all this stuff is. And once you remember that, once you take that into consideration, the entire craft in itself gets a whole lot easier. At least it does in my head. As soon as I realized I could graph this stuff out, I have been making designs non-stop. And we're just going to keep working our way across. Bottom right, top left. Make all of our pretty itty-bitty little X's. Now black and your darker colors are going to be a bit easier to work with because you can more easily see them. When we come back next time, the body of the mushroom and the spots are white. That's going to be a little bit tricky. Some folks like to save white for the very last so that they have all the colors around it, so there's really no way for you to mess it up. Some people do white first so they don't mess it up that way. Again, to each their own. You want to do white first, we're going to do white first. You want to do color first, we can do color first. All depends on what you, the crafter, want to do with your craft. And with this last one, this one last little X, badunk, you, my lovely, have finished your first mushroom. I'm going to flip her on over, and once again we're going to weave our needle through those pretty back stitches that you've made. Pull taut, trim, badunk. You have made your own little mushroom. If you're looking up here, you see these little dotted lines. That's actually where our spots are going to be. So when we come back and try and fill this puppy in, we're going to actually do that in here. We're not actually going to hash mark our mushrooms because that's not necessary. So we have extra floss. Mama D, you told me you were going to figure out what to do with the extra floss. We are. First, we're going to find something to do with your needle. I have a bad habit of stabbing it into the extra piece of Aida cloth. Later on, I will teach you how to make something that you actually can put on your Aida cloth as like a magnet. We'll learn new stuff next time. Now, certain craft stores sell these little pieces of paper that you can actually wind your extra floss around. I'm not sure about you guys. I'm more of a, can I do that at home and do it cheaper kind of person. And guess what? Yes. The answer is yes. Yes, you can. I use index cards. And I make these things. It helps keep it all neat and tidy. Just regular index card. Scissors. Cut a piece down to size. Fold that puppy in thirds. That way it gives it some extra strength. Take your scissors and cut little triangles onto each side. They don't have to be big. They also don't even have to be pointed in the same direction. We're going to take our scissors and put a little extra bit right there. And then, can you guess what you're going to do with it? I bet you can. You're quite smart. We're going to take it, hold it with one finger, and wind that puppy up. If it's all wound up, you're not going to get tangled. And you just bring it on down with that. Simple, cheap. You don't have to go anywhere to buy it because you can use scrap paper, you can use computer paper, cardstock, note cards, whatever you have on hand. Which makes everything so much easier.
Yeah, I discovered that.
Well, I am proud of you. I am proud of me. We have made it through our first streaming service together, my dears. So again, you have finished it. You have done it. And next time we come together, we're going to give this guy some color. So you have a good night, and keep on crafting.